Hi, everybody. Are you tired?
Yeah.
I'm not tired. But as a courtesy to my poets today, I'm Bill Lavender. I run Lavender Ink, Diálogos, and that's why I call them my poets. So we're gonna have some readings from some new releases and from some slightly older releases. And I've decided, as a courtesy to the poets, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. And they can decide the bio they want to give you. And then talk about the work a little bit, I think. Talk about the book, then read from it. I like that idea. You okay with that? Impromptu? Yeah. Okay. So, just rather a random order as it is on the schedule, we'll start with Piotr.
Thank you. So I will introduce myself. I think in the course of the introduction, I would like to start with two things. First, I would like to thank Bill for publishing this wonderful book by Grzegorz Wróblewski, Dear Beloved Humans, Selected Poems. So this came out from Diálogos last year in May of 2023. Thanks also for his invitation to this festival. It has been such a terrific festival, full of interesting, and really inspiring panels and readings. So it's a great honor to be here. Secondly, however, I wanted to convey Grzegorz Wróblewski's deep regrets at being unable to be present at today's reading. He was planning to be here, but had to cancel at the last moment due to a medical emergency. So he's very disappointed about it, as I'm sure you are disappointed as well. So I will be here. I'm here to basically represent this book as the translator of this book. Our plan had been for Grzegorz to read the poems in Polish, and I would then follow with my English translations, but since he's not here, I'm just going to stick to English with a couple exceptions. So first, a short bio. Those of you who don't know Grzegorz Wróblewski, first the author. He's a Polish poet, born in 1962. He grew up in Warsaw. Since 1985, he has been living in Copenhagen, in Denmark, although he continues to write in Polish. And he is the author of dozens of volumes of poetry, essays, and drama in Poland, and as well as other countries. He is also a visual artist, a really talented visual artist, whose work has been exhibited in Denmark, Poland, throughout Europe. His work is also available in translation, including English translation, several books. If you don't know Wróblewski, if you are interested in finding out more about his work, there are selections of his poetry in English translation, published in the UK, in Australia, and also in the United States. Some of them are by other translators. Dear Beloved Humans is my third translation of Wróblewski's work, preceded by Copenhagen, which is a collection of prose poems, which came out in 2013 from Zephyr Press, and Zero Visibility, published in 2017 by Phonem Media. But Dear Beloved, I especially recommend Dear Beloved Humans, as I said, published last year by Diálogos Books. The book, by the way, is available for sale at the fair or for exchange. I have a few of my own copies here as well. And this book is unique in the sense that it is, because of its temporal scope, it covers 40 plus years of Grzegorz' poetic career. There are no dates attached to the title here, it only says selected poems, but it could have had dates, and the dates would have been 1980 to 2020. You see, so 40 years, it spans 2 centuries, we could say. But it's not a particularly lengthy book, as you can see, because it is more like it's a selection of his poems from the last 40 years of his career, but it is more of a cross-section of his work. In other words, I selected poems, curated them. It's a carefully curated collection, we might say. I selected poems based on 2 criteria. First, whether they had been translated into English or not. So I chose the ones that had not been translated into English. And the second criterion, simply the poems I happen to like more than others. Obviously, he has written many more poems, thousands by now. So there's a certain, if this book shows anything, it's a certain continuity of his work. As he himself told me, the poems that he wrote at the age of 20 are as important to him as the ones he writes at the age of 60. So I hope that the book shows that. It shows a certain combination of profundity on the one hand. It can be profound but also funny. And many people have noticed it about Wróblewski's work, including Sharon Mesmer, who a few years ago very kindly provided a blurb to our previous book, Zero Visibility, in which she refers to his melancholic hilarity. And that I think captures very well what his poetry is like. This is my introduction. I am also a poet and a critic, and I teach at the University of Pittsburgh. But mainly, I wanted to talk about my work here as the translator, and I would like to show you and share with you my work as a translator now. I'm going to read 6 poems only, 3 from the 20th century and 3 from the 21st century. All right. So the first one, very early, I think he must have been around the age of 20 at the time when he wrote this poem. It has no title. I gathered everyone, the wire-rimmed glasses, the yellow wallpaper, and the linocut hanging on the wall. I said, listen, I'm telling you this because there is no one else. I'm going away. I'm disappearing faster and faster. People call it a journey to the land of silence. They listened. None of them said a word. None advised me to take up a sport. None said, put on a tie, get down to earth. There was no heated discussion. Only the 4 corpses. Me with the wire-rimmed glasses on my nose, the yellow wallpaper, and the linocut hanging on the wall. Another early poem, this one is formally and even verbally very inventive. Very short too, I will read it in Polish and English. Polish first. Grupka. Ja, ty, on. Ja, ty, on. Ty, ja, on. On, ja, ty. Ty, on, ja. On, ty, ja. Ja, on, ty. Dlatego rozejdźmy się. A small group. I, you, he. I, you, he. You, I, he. He, I, you. You, he, I. He, you, I. I, he, you. We must separate. Some of you may know that the literary critic, the famous, prominent poetry critic, Marjorie Perloff, passed away about a month ago. And she had always been very supportive of Grzegorz's work, really enthusiastic about it, and Grzegorz has always appreciated very much. And so when this book came out, I sent her a copy, and she acknowledged it and sent a really nice email to both of us, from which I will read now just a couple of sentences. I don't think she would have minded. She said, "Dear Grzegorz, dear Piotr." So this is from June 23rd, 1923, an email. "What a wonderful book. I am so happy this has come out." This is all in caps, by the way. I laugh and smile at almost every page. I know many of these poems, but not all. There are surprises on every page, as in a quiet evening after a long day's work. Yes, time to switch channels. Here's the poem that Marjorie Perloff liked, especially. A quiet evening after a long day's work. Nothing like a plate, a cherry, tomato, smoked sausage, some butter, a color TV, a street protest on Channel 1. They killed a man who knew too much. Why did he know so much? I have no idea. Time to switch channels. More butter, another slice of bread. Give me that sausage, another tomato. And now all is quiet. I may have a hole in my tooth. A badminton match on Channel 2. They are playing well, but it's getting late for me. All right, and now a couple of recent poems, more recent poems. Lagoon. You were an avid reader of Lemurian classics, but our relationship still didn't last because of the neoprene shirt with a drawstring. What a nightmare. Do you remember it? Actually, no, it was the one with a satin inset that killed our romance. And then you found me kinky pants with an elastic waist and asymmetrical buttonfly. Neither Ashbery nor my favorite fashion stories about long-haired dachshunds helped. However, I'm pretty sure you ruined it all with that tunic with a tying ribbon. In the end, you bought me, out of spite, a sweater with purple tassels, at which point I went back to my slip-on blouse, the one with leopard print.
Nice.
Support. Because you breed cats, you are allowed to procreate with any number of veterinarians. No one can accuse you of deliberately drowning me in the ocean because you breed cats. You could partner with people who make defoliants, and even then you would be considered a saint. You are untouchable because you breed cats. You are untouchable because you breed cats, etc. All right, and I will end with a poem which is, offers a change of subject, a change of tone too, what I think of as a satirical micro-reflection on war and peace and empires. It's called Waterloo. I will read the Polish version first, then the English. Nikt nigdy nie wygrał. Wszyscy przegrali, a mówią, że wygrali, mimo że przegrali. Nikt nigdy nie wygrał. Wszyscy przegrali, a mówią, że wygrali. Waterloo. No one won. They all lost, but claim they won, even though they lost. No one won. They all lost, but claim they won. Again, thank you.
I just want to add that all the books the poet's going to read from today, we're going to have copies that are here if you want to get a signed copy before you leave, all 100 of you. And don't worry, I've got enough copies. Okay. Anyway, Jeff?
Okay, so by way of introduction, Jeff Greeneisen, and I'm originally from Pennsylvania, which I still call home. And in 1999, I moved to Florida, where I was going to work for a year. So I'm still there. I'm in Bradenton, and I have a friend from Sarasota here, Bubba Henson, who's doing wonderful things with the poetry scene in Sarasota. And I'm excited that he's here. I want to thank Bill for so many opportunities, including stuff at UNO with the low-res program and also for this recent project. So I'll start with my first book, which is kind of old now, and so of course we don't like it so much anymore. Good Sumacs, which then gave way to this, which is a project of things written since Good Sumacs, but then things written from before. There are actually a couple in here that began. The genesis was 1989, as when I was an undergraduate. The poems are not the same, so they've gone through radical transformations to be included in this, which is called The Language of Phosphorescence. And I love the cover so much, I have a shirt that's about the same color and texture as this cover. So I'll just start, let's see, let me make sure I don't go over, so let me just save it here. All right, so I'll just start reading. I'll tell you a little bit about poems if there's a need to. First one I'm going to read is called Midway. And this is, it's self-explanatory. Midway. We should die before we can feel our child torn from his lover. She running her hand along his chest. He winning her a stuffed tiger at the fair. They will outgrow this and learn to hate each other's slurps, crunches of toast, the infinite future lost to the reality of pushing a stroller along a highway. Forever is not a long time, but a temporary idea in an annual small-town fair. Kids spinning in tilt-a-whirls or shuffling hand in hand through the junk of novelty t-shirts or long feathers on roach clips, eating greasy fries and hot sausages and deep-fried things. Once grown, they will go to work, one day a week off, maybe a week's vacation. Until then, we know them by the angle their heads make, tilted toward one another, making a peak head to head, as if tomorrow will never come. They love as if love is all they need. They could fall asleep right here, now, forever, lost in one another. We've all been there. Felt like the next moment doesn't exist, will never occur, because we have this now. But we need to pay rent, car insurance, and when the fair comes to a close, we pull our fingers apart, take our hand out of our lover's back pocket, forget the barker's call, and we rejoin the world. This poem, I think I read a version of this maybe one other time at this conference, but it's a poem that I wrote in response to Parkland, the school shooting. And I want to read it again because this poem was translated into Japanese for an anthology that was connected to a conference. And I worked with, I don't know any second language enough to do translation myself, but what I found really interesting was that working with the Japanese translator, there was a cultural barrier that I think some of the context of the poem is so unfamiliar to a reader in Japan of the atrocity of a school shooting. That there were a lot of emails back and forth between us while we were trying to figure out how best he could make this work. So, Parkland. 200 miles northwest, my own son safely tucked behind the iron fence, keeping danger out and the bullies in. He kicks a red ball to his buddies on the playground outfield. If I think about it, I might quake for the parents who do not have the safety of this distance, who are on their way right now, praying on this Ash Wednesday that they will not return a human to the earth today, that their son or daughter is not Ash, that they will not wait outside of the large swinging doors, slump in chairs, nurse bad coffee brought in stages by people who need to move to support. Their fears echo outward, upward, as the drills push our children behind the tape lines on the floor, teachers making games with prizes for quiet in dark classrooms to stifle elementary giggles. Cosplay shooters terrify children the same as a real one. No fence too high for the revolving guidelines, to shelter, to run, to cry, to hide, and to do it all silently so as not to die. There's another really short one was translated in that Japanese anthology, The Wasps. And this is just my I guess, ode to the Imagist poets. It takes up only that much space. This morning's sun breaks cold sleep. Frozen lives begin again. With silent wings, they lift from mud. Legs hang like landing gear. They entomb larvae into the secret spaces of paper houses. The next poem started on my way to a conference. A friend of ours had a wife who was in the middle of liver transplant, and we were in an airport when we all learned that she had passed away. And it started with me, just this thought, and just like that. And this was before the Sex and the City sequel came about. But anyway, that was the impetus for this poem. It's called, And Just Like That, She's Dead. Her heart stopped like a watch wound down to nothing. She did not reject the liver that flew across the country in a cooler, racing against death itself. The surgeon trimmed it to size, and the liver blushed with her blood, swelled where it needed to be whole again. Her husband had parked on side streets, lived in small chairs in the waiting room or in the corner of her room. He watched the tabulation rising, $1 million, more than $1 million for a life. That life ceased, and in the stillness of a moment, the words lingered beneath a Facebook throwback picture of him and his recently alive wife. When I looked up from the app, the airport bustle of business travelers and vacationers slows to a blur, and no other moment matters. The brain takes 5, stops recording, and there's just that photo, the words, and then nothing. And I'll end on a happy poem. This is one that began, that had its impetus long, long, long ago, and I just sort of reworked it, called Poem for Autumn. We crawl into the sumac jungle across the dirt trail. His tiny shoes kick through new fallen leaves. He fills his waiting wagon with hatless acorns, pine cones, dull shale stones. I show him red maple leaves and yellow birch and tell him it's autumn when leaves are pretty. Bristly pines brush green fingers against his cheek. Soon we'll make birch whistles, heat press red leaves into wax bookmarks, and hike far to my grandfather's old strip mine where I learned to climb rocks and fish for sunfish, where blackberries stained my own tiny fingers. This fall, the grapevines hang bare in the rusty orchard, maples crimson early. When I read him his bedtime story, shut the window against cool air, he kisses me and falls asleep. And the only green left this year glows from a very beautiful place within me.
Ready?
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, okay?
Okay.
Briefly, 10 minutes. His introduction, it would be, he could introduce himself for 30 minutes, okay? That's what I was telling you. It's a long and very bio.
I was born in a country that no longer exists, called Ceylon, now known as Sri Lanka. I found a home here in New Orleans with Diálogos books, which has published two of my books. Blue Window, which is a translation from Ventana Azul. I wrote the poems in Spanish, and Jennifer Upton translated them into English. And the other is my translation of the great Mexican poet Manuel Ulacia, Origami, selected poems of Manuel Ulacia. My most recent work is called Poet Nampoa, Poet of the Poet, and it takes me to Haiti, where I was working for 3 years as an American diplomat. And I'd like to read from that book today. So, you know, in the last year of my stay, I started to write intensively in Creole, intensively to manage. I do not want to feel sad thinking of the last family member, last bird, last time I can see a mountain covered with ice. But when you do not write, at least I can compose a poem and for a few minutes visit another world where I know how to manage rain and sun. Gérer, when pavle sentim triste, when pavle penser à dernier mam famim, derniers oiseaux, dernière fois moi bon la glace, même les ou pas écrit au moins m'a composé belle poème, pour quelques minutes m'a visité l'autre monde, côté qu'à gérer et puis contrôler la pluie avec soleil là. In Haiti, I walked into an art gallery, and the gallery owner, who's also a writer, said, "You've come back," you know. And she said that I was born here 500 years ago or something. So this one's called Meditation Under the Tree. I think of you at every moment of the day, even if there are others in the world, other wars to fix. It is always like this. Inspiration takes blood, sweat, absolute compromise until love arrives because we're exhausted from running fast, pressed in the course that life sets. Stop already. Take a breath. We are there even if in our heads we visited the country without a hat. Even if obsession with love flourishes in your poem because the poet Maudit must write about the flower wilted, punched, destroyed. Or perhaps one can change themes like a lizard its skin. I sit in the leaves of the tree. I'm waiting for you. Nobody can see me except you because I think I see you still. The country without a hat That's where you go after you leave this mortal coil. You know? So that explains why I keep my hat on. I don't have that original home. I mean, many people don't have their original homes, but I feel I've acquired many homes. And so when my friend Mackenzie Orsell started to call me Haitian, I felt absolutely giddy. Haitian, Haitian. Haitian, how are you? You write in our language and you love with our words. You defy despair with a backpack full of proverbs. You dance compas, you sit beside the sea with a run and a smile in this forgotten island that advances just a little after remembering gulf, pit and death. Haitian, stick around here with us. Haitian, stick around here with us. Haitian, kumonuye, u ekrinan langwen epiuren men at monu, ou défier désespoir ak yon makut plein proverbe, ou danser compas, ou chita bola me ak yon wom, epi yon souris nan zile oubli, qui avance yon tigras, après mémoire gouffre, toi l'amour. Haïtien, restez c'est là avec nous. Haïtien, restez c'est là avec nous. These poems, some of them are songs actually. There's an album called Rencontre Doute, which you can listen to on the music stores. I recorded it with musicians, friends in Haiti before I left. And the last day of my stay, the CD was delivered to my home. So and I carried it across the water, Lordport, to the other side. And anyway, now it exists there in those places if you want to listen to it. I'm going to read and finish with poems from Origami. Now this is a book, I hope you will look for Manuel Olasia's work. He was a close confidant of Octavio Paz. He used to work on Vuelta magazine. And he was a close friend when I lived in Mexico City. And I started translating his poems the old way, with dictionaries on paper. And we shared our translations and he looked at them. And so I'll just read a couple of these. And then it took 20 years for the book to come out. He passed away in an accident in 2001. And, thanks to Diálogos, the book is out there. Regreso a la ciudad, la luz entre las hojas y recobro la infancia. Todo cambia, dijo mi padre en la calle 5 de Mayo. Mire la tarde huir con las nubes en bandadas. Return to the city, the light among the leaves, and I regain my childhood. Everything changes, my father said on the street called 5 de Mayo. I saw the evening flee in flocks of clouds. Encuentros. Entregarte como la piedra al vértigo profundo de la noche. Caer y volver a estar donde estuvimos. Ser los mismos y ser otros. Como si todo otra vez fuera nuevo. El tren que pasa, la ventana azul, mi cuerpo desnudo junto al tuyo, llenos de amor en un cuarto vacío. Encounter. Give yourself like a stone to the deep vertigo of night. Fall and return to be where we once were. Be the same and yet be others, as if everything were new again. The passing train, the blue window, my body naked against yours, filled with love in an empty room. Viento. Bate el viento los cristales, las murallas, los tejados. En desvarío se filtra por rendijas y escaleras. Es percusión de timbales en la torre y en el foso. Aliento grave de tubas en el sendero que baja al río. Silbido agudo en todas las chimeneas. Movimiento encadenado en las copas de los árboles. Rápida fuga de nubes en el cielo azul intenso. Pausa, eco, Silencio. En el castillo no hay nadie. El viento sopla por todas partes incesantemente. Algo en mí también se agita. Tal vez seas tú, que llegas de repente, de muy lejos. Wind. The wind beats the windows, the walls, the roofs. Delirious, it filters through cracks and stairways. It is the percussion of timpani in the tower and in the moat. The heavy breath of tubers on the path that drops to the river. Sharp whistling in all the chimneys. Linked movement in the treetops. Rapid flight of clouds in the intense blue sky. A pause, an echo, silence. There is no one in the castle. The wind is blowing incessantly everywhere. Something in me also stirs. Perhaps it's you who arrives suddenly from far away. I'd like to leave with one more poem, just picked by chance from Blue Window. Blue Window is a, well, it's interesting because I noticed the line La Ventana Azul there, Blue Window, and I must have stuck in my memory, and then many years later I wrote a book and I called it Blue Window. So thank you, Manolo. I'll finish with this poem, Viaje. Trip. Estamos de viaje, cada uno por su cuenta, tú hacia la montaña, yo al mar. Tú con nuevos amigos y con tiempo para reflexionar, yo a ver a mi hija, el fruto del pasado, y a unos amigos todavía en este lado del mar. No sé qué provecho sacar del contraste, montaña, mar, amigos nuevos, una hija alta y bella, casi una adolescente a punto de despegar. ¿A dónde? A una nueva ciudad, al futuro que le espera otra vez en el Padre. A mí no me gusta lo impermanente y darme cuenta del límite de la costa. ¿Qué opciones me quedan? ¿No regresar? ¿No dar algún consejo a este ser vivo al que ayudé a caminar? Guardar el silencio cuando cada memoria quiere hablar. Trip. We're on a trip, each one of us on our own. You towards the mountain, I to the sea. You with new friends and time to reflect, I to see my daughter, fruit of the past, and a few friends still on this side of the sea. I don't know how to take advantage of the contrast. Mountain, sea, new friends, a tall and beautiful daughter, almost an adolescent, ready to take off. Where to? A new city, to a future that awaits her again without her father. I don't like the impermanent and realize the limit of the coast. What options are left for me? Not return, not give some advice to this living being whom I helped teach to walk. Keep silent when every memory wants to talk. Thank you so much.
Mark Vincent next.
Hello everybody, I'm delighted to be here. I'm very grateful to Bill for publishing my last book. The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, which is kind of an analysis of imperialism. This poem's called Spectral Analysis. Down at the port, where the ribbons flow on a Friday night, the pubs are crowded at 5. The old skippers congregate, drifting greedily into their odd banter. Who caught the most frightening fish? Who came face to face with a deep in the eye of a giant squid? Or barely escaped that battering foam from an angry blue whale? Imagine what else they go on about. Long time coming, storm cloud on the horizon, beneath the weather, then above. Here come the mackerel, the herring, the scores of transatlantic cod. Once this place was loaded with sardines in wooden barrels and sailed from here across the world. The fish could be scooped up by almost any hand. They came from as far as Siberia, followed by all the seagulls and 100 years of frostbite. Take this very can, over 100 years old herself, dented and rusted. The metals seep in, but the oil imported from the Cretan islands is still a thick emulsion, and when you bite in, the salt crystals crackle and fizz on your tongue, and the sardines are soft yet firm. Their skins have quietly braised in history, touched by cosmic background radiation. All's well with you, you say. I would hand you some fragments, some cold evidence, how they were herded onto the boats, searing in pain from cable burns, or those who died with a wire across their eyes, or the cut and scrape of their gills against cold steel, how they came from the other side of the planet to mate and spawn and breed, where the most vital and vibrant river finds its source. Conscription theory. The last words from the surface of the sun are brighter than should be permitted. They are of the substance we call ethereal, that other never discovered element, elemental in substance, unsubstantiated in chemical trials. Alternative theories abound, from the hocus pocus of the POTUS to an anonymous tribe living deep in the woods. All theories are brighter than should be permitted. Let us close here with these last words. What is the difference between an obstacle and an expression of attainment? Conspiracy theory 101. Upheld in all beliefs and traditions, scarce but widely transmuted, I know a Scheherazade of shipwrecks. Bet upon the first child, they say, and you were difficult to hold. Every broken pane in the house talked to you. In March, you knew the rain before it came. You adored that sodden terrain where old souls rise smoking through the leaves. You were crying with happiness. In the deepest shade of love, you seemed to be emerging in chains of paper stars. Perhaps one day we shall all experience true history in the long hand of the sun. Fire tattoo. From the underside of the world she emerged as an eel out of the carcass of a waterlogged horse. All her invisible powers, just as they appeared in that comic book, one string on her shoulder, bullets hailing, and just as desperately as she wanted to be superfluous. How? Listen, we've loved the bureaucrat, and no doubt the politician too. Far from the wafer in your chocolate ice cream to the glacial air breathing across our faces, we've been robbed. Every newspaper mutters it. Moses meant what he said. Imagine this, you're not who you think you are at all. The brainchild of 100 lullabies. Who would do that? Suddenly someone said, in the middle of their breathing exercises. Was that an ancient Indian wisdom? The worst of it, that I'm sure this has been written elsewhere. You don't want to wear that uniform unable to swim, since that heavy fabric pulls you down. As we know from the future, a blue moon will rise again straight out of the ashes, and a four-headed eagle will fly toward high culture. From your high chair, the angels cannot save you. The volcanologist, descended from heaven but rarely aware of the ill omens or the lethal brand on the screen, the smoke bombs in the corners. Credibility is the only fire that forged us. Unpronounceable for those who wish to say it, then slough through it. For those leaving and arriving, like the woodworm, we were born in a chest. We lit them up. We would slip them into the grassy yard, take deep breaths, then quickly ask, from which star? Such a Victorian. The bird that flutters reaches out in time, knee-deep in nerve grass. At the cemetery gates, the children play like half-opened flowers on a breeze, but deep in the coffers, beneath that layer of nonsense, all those big rivers, the fishermen stock themselves in a healthy dose of rum. The ship sails on to Shanghai, and like the silent strokes of a whip, or the snake tongues that rise from the sea, the insane iron eyes staring from the keep. I hope that many more of you are blind, like the singer in all his rows of hope, that gathering of ruffled skirts, the approachable neckline, the stars in the charts, those who wander from a kiss, or in some insane way close up the iron holes, so all we have is surface. And the last one, all the roads have come. The silence that lives in the grass goes off into a room inside the rocket. These foothills were good for the bowels and the words, just small words, just in case. Amid all that is great, the small words are those that resound across the meadows, the woodland, through the inner and outer cities, dangling on the earlobe, spraying from the earth, surrounded by bees in all their collective fury, or the atoms that vibrate your body to life. There's no end to the messages. They come from one planet to another. They say, what? What should we say to the people on Earth? Perhaps something like, we came here so suddenly. Thank you.
Norman Fisher.
Hi everybody, I'm continuing the Hat Club. I didn't expect to be reading in this reading, I'm happy to do it. I have this Lavender Ink title. There was a clattering as. I'll read a little bit from this and maybe a few other poems. Since I didn't expect to read, let me take a minute to find something. I'm introducing myself. I'm from San Francisco Bay Area, and I've been writing and publishing for a long time. And I also write books about Buddhism. Legend has it that when he assisted his father in his trade as butcher, he gave speeches in high style while slaughtering pigs. But in fact, after farming outside his small village, his father became a glover who manufactured and sold on Henley Street. And the son would add to the packages a few appropriate lines of verse, often ending in a pun on his name. For he dreamt of fame, though he had no prospects, and knew a name was the thing. What's in a sweet name? Leather and wool, which was illegal without a permit, a bit of farming and husbandry, so he knew sheep and was familiar with the inside of a shepherd's cot. In these times in England, extensive literacy and education, sensibilities sensitized to rhetorical effects and robust language, ordinary people possessed a taste for elaborate display, as in long and complex sermons attended carefully each Sunday by the sincerely faithful with long attention spans and discriminating ears on hard wooden pews. Then in London gathered the poets, rich in repartee and daring do, heavy drinking and eating and lively verbal style, forged in classical education and universities where both low-born and high could steep in Greek and Latin examples of oratorical bombast and ribaldry, and tales of the foolishness of Kings, Lodge and Watson, Peel and Nash, Marlowe, and excessive Robert Greene. Talented, narcissistic, self-dramatizing, self-promoting, shameless, undisciplined, in short, a scoundrel who abandoned his children in life and stole from the poor as he gluttonized drunkenly between bursts of sloppy but brilliant writing and duplicity and moments of failed moral reform. His red hair spilled upon his face, slumped upon his dropsical belly until he stirred, sudden as a volcano, energetically erupting into laughter or fury in the public house where all gathered. He arrived those few years when they conjured an English theater scene outrageous and commercial. But being not of the university, a practical small-town man, a player, careful with his cash, conservative in his manners, an ordinary person, not a poet, listened, watched, held back, watched, listened, as shortly perished all. This at 32, that at 35, this at 40, that at barely 30. And he went to his grave, crowned with laurel by a shoemaker's wife, his creditor, a wild head full of a mad brain, a scholar, a courtier, a ruffian, a gamester, a lover, a soldier, a traveler, a merchant, a breaker, an artificer, a botcher, a pettifogger, a player, a cozener, a railer, a beggar, an omnigatherum, an author for knaves and fools. There had been storms every night, but last night's was strongest. A tremendous storm, thunder and bright lightning, many flashes close in, lighting up the sky as if day. Torrential rain, pounding the cocoa palms, lasting an hour or two, maybe 3 to 5 a.m., impossible to sleep through. Today the path to the house is a stream bed, ants swarming the rocks and up and down trees to stay dry. 2 nights ago, a blood-curdling cry in the jungle, crossed between a dog and a cat, a fishing boat very close in, surrounded by pelicans and frigate birds, dive-bombing the boat and fighting over fish, their shark-bite wings, forked tails, and long, straight, primitive beaks, as in Olson's Mayan letters. In the pleading, another voice speaks, not yours. Hear the sounds, see the sights, the sky with its endless terraces, the scream of an ancient call that floats or bobs on the waters. In the hush I don't know, nor can see. Language is such a disappointment. Clunky words that mean so little. How can an author have confidence? How can a king rule? A crown not distribute its lethality. Bracing perceptions blow you back. A terror freezes fluid, bone solid. It isn't even you anymore. White hot for the world to pull its handle, and you go down, riding those waves of sound in a pitch anyway. And who are you pitching? I'm pitching you, pitching me. It's the only way I know I'm alive. But if you know, and if you pitch, are you still alive? way it did when I didn't know who you were, or what you were, or what I was. Love me then, like a rake loves gravel. A tree loves a snake. An apple loves loins at break of day. This is a painting, brush painting by Kaz Tanahashi on the cover. Now, if it's okay, I'll read a few. All right, we have a few more minutes. I want to see how these sound. I haven't read this before. These are unpublished. Maybe in a magazine someplace, I forget, but no, not in a book. Yes. Just a couple of these kind of short, freestanding poems, all entitled Poem. It was only your gaze, gazing at mine. It was only my supreme confidence that made me certain of the stars above, that they were there somehow, though I couldn't see them. And when I could, so thick in the mountain sky, so many, so close, so far, and so bright, I was comforted and terrified. It was a knowledge. The children who accompanied me with their colorful garlands did not expect. 4 of them, 2 young men and 4 young women, crowned one another with flowers, laughing in an English copse, in the English way. How powerful frightened horses are, and how sad the self-important old men with their singing words that go north or south of their own accord and fall dashed into disappointed heaps. But spring comes even to villains in their villas, as to the destitute on steroids. I don't need insight. I need the accursed share to discover the hollow feeling in my hair that comes with all perception in a perception-resistant world. Do not stake your life on an idea, no matter how true it may be, or false. The blame for our lost evening and weekend lies with evolution. I am no scientist, but I am no stranger to fact. The world hits you all at once, like a blast of hot air from a suddenly open furnace. Functionality isn't fun. And I'll just finish with this poem. The bitterness of women, the restlessness of water, as it perks its way through mountain streams, or salted churns oceans, mixing invisible the sky, that keeps its secrets in my body. The oscillation of good and evil in my thought, the confidence to head on into a dark future, for the future's always dark. The sun don't shine there. The desperation of men who must try to be what they are not. They can't but pretend. All wars, pretend wars, all heroes, imagined heroes, crushed by what's beneath they cannot see. For sun don't shine in underworlds. Humanity's certainly shipshape now, all set for the excellent adventure. Now a brooks, a body of quiet water, and the collected poems, a body of work. The body smirks a crooked smirk for something comical surely in store, a pratfall, a pun, a rhyme that shouldn't be fun, but it is, it's so inept. All the pretty people are pretty to the lookers at them, who see in their roundness and smoothness something to be desired, a future and a past. Thank you very much for including me in this whole festival and for all the work you do in the publishing and everything else. What a great reading. I really enjoyed all you guys were fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to all the readers. How do you like my stable?
Yeah.
I'm going to read from one more. This is my most recent book. The author couldn't be here. The title of the book is Every Time They Call Me She. And may I read the author's bio? Shit. Belle Brock Adelman Cannon was born February 10, 2006 in New Orleans. Over the course of their 17 years, they excelled in a variety of pursuits, including languages, French, Hebrew, German, dance, fashion, dance, fashion design, gardening, and writing. They attended the International School of Louisiana, Benjamin Franklin High School, and the pre-professional program at New Orleans Ballet. They worked at Touro Synagogue, Grodat Youth Farm, and Henry S. Jacobs Camp. Their spiritual cornerstones were queer identity, Judaism, and their beloved hometown, especially the Faubourg Marigny, where we are. They were exceptionally charismatic, attracting a huge number of devoted friends. These poems are their first and only publication. They died on June 3rd, 2023. Sorry. These poems were discovered on their phone by their father. I'm sorry. This happens to me when I get tired. I'm just going to read the first couple of poems from the book. The Grand Spinet is in the piano spinet. The room is cold, the air is stiff, the seat is warm where you used to sit. The candles dim, their shadows dance on ivory keys where your fingers pranced. The candles melt, their shadows fade, but echo long the last song you played. A leaf. Uncertainty falls calmly like a leaf from a tree. It slowly drifts, not knowing where to fall, and then settles on someone's head. The mind crowds with feeling, yet ironically enough, the leaves keep falling. One more. Suffocate me with a pillow, and we call it art. The beauty lies in the message that meant to give me comfort draws my last. The sublime part is the death, of course, unless, just as I give up the struggle, you pull back the pillow and life's a beauty again, a rebirth of sorts. After which you, who've never been late to class, will replace you, the consciousness who lags behind, always late and tired and lost. Why can't my body and my mind keep up? Blame the pillow or the hand behind it. Call it art. Okay, thanks. copies of any or all of these books while most of the poets are here to sign them, and right here or at my table in the morning, and see you at 7 for the big show tonight. Yeah, right here.